Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Nivarthi Jairam joining you live along with my good old friend Vivek Ganesan, not old by age any means, so uh, nothing as such, but yes, we have been connected for quite a while now. Hi, Vivek, how are you doing?
Hi Nivarthi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. So wonderful to connect with you on this forum. I think this is the first time we are connecting on a live session. And what better topic than technical coaching? With your expertise that you have over the last many years on this topic. So, how would you look at technical coaching as a whole? Vivek? How do you like to start about the topic itself?
Ah, okay. Maybe we can start with the general routine of what is technical coaching, right? From there, probably we could go further, right? Um, so I did not know when I started my career. I did not know that there was a separate field called technical coaching. So I still remember the day when I wanted to get into consulting. I was working in a startup, and I wanted to get into consulting, and I was applying for Solution Secure, right? Solution Secure was a company
Mm.
which later merged into Accenture and all these things. So the first question they asked was, "Hey Vivek, are you a flow coach or are you a tech coach?" And I'm like, okay. I want to be a coach, and I think I'm a coach. I'm coaching people now. I don't know what is a flow coach. I don't know what is a tech coach. And then the person, her name is Madhura. She's a recruiter. She explained me what is a flow coach and what is a tech coach. Then I said, hey, based on what you're saying, I think I'm a tech coach, right? So what is tech coach is nothing but we all do, now agile transformations are there in every company, every organization. There's some or other variant of agile transformation. uh, Most of the agile transformation is focused on the process part of the transformation, where you set up a new process, you set up new roles. For example, scrum master is a role that people create, and if you are doing scaled agile, RTE gets created, and a lot of new roles and processes are changing. Whereas when you talk about agility, it is all about early and continuous delivery. That is the first principle of the Agile Manifesto. And when you have to do that, you cannot do just processes, roles, and some leadership styles and management styles in order to get benefits out of it, or in order to move from 3 months once release or yearly once release to early and continuous delivery of valuable software.
Mm.
So that gap is filled by what you call as technical coaching, where you actually target the technical practices that the team follows. This is particularly in context of software development teams,
Mm.
software products, or sometimes it could even be software services. But it is particularly for the software engineering teams, where you target how they have to change their day-to-day life, right, in order to move to a smaller release cycle where they can be more receptive to feedback. And you basically that idea of early and continuous delivery comes from there. So
Mm.
technical coaching is a set of a coaching discipline where you being a person, a coach is basically a person external to the team, and that person comes in and says, I can help you with the actual technical practices, starting with developers, if there are testers, even testers, business analysts, and sometimes we have to touch managers also,
Mm.
right? And there have been times where we have to talk to the team's leadership so that they could get something done, so that they can go to shorter release cycles. I'm not sure if I told too many things. Do you have any
No,
follow-up questions on that?
no, absolutely. It consists of too many things as well, right? So that's what I just, because when I speak to a lot of people, what we see is there is so much of fanfare around agile coaching. You have so many certifications that are around. Take the name and there could be one, but what we don't see is much significance of the technical coaching, parlance as well. It's a big mystery even today after so many uh, years of agile being in existence, right? So it doesn't essentially get the same level of significance and focus probably the so-called transformation coaching or flow coaching uh, manages to get. and I may be getting beaten for that, but that's okay. But my thought was there is a lot of significance to this, right? This aspect of technical agility, and I remember we had a lot of discussions with our good friend Vinay again on technical agility aspects as well. And that's where I thought, why not spend a bit more time on this? And I think you covered quite a few things on what technical coaching is. But how does that it help the development teams in the end? And you also said one interesting point that could be a follow-up question. You said that, okay, we also have to talk to leaders sometimes, right? So how does that play? Means, what do you talk to leaders on about technical coaching, which essentially is for developers? Those would be my two cents of questions.
Okay, I'll answer your last question first and the first question last. The question about the leaders. What does a technical coach talk to a leader? There is a VP of engineering. What does he talk? There is a CTO. What does the technical coach talk to a CTO? So there is one thing that, I believe, it's a personal belief again, that every technical coach also is a flow coach, right? Without understanding the aspects of that product development flow and the processes and how each role blends into things, and influencing, what level of influencing is necessary at what level, uh, we can have little to no success as a technical coach, because we would just be talking to developers where leaders thought, okay, this Vivek will take care of all these developer changes, and the flow coach will take care of non-developer changes or manager changes or process changes. So one example of that could be that we did a meme. I work for a group called Tech Coach Circle. We did a meme this morning about this also. Let us say there is a TDD has become a very fancy term, right? So let us say somewhere in some conference or some talk, a leader listens that you need to do TDD in order to have very good quality, right? And it improves agility, it gives you great design, lot of things, and this person is all powered up. And then this person goes back to office and says, guys, there is a new mandate from today. We are going to do every work using TDD. Right now, this is a very, more often than not, it is a very common situation. Now when this happens, first thing is it's a push. That's a different story, push to the developers. But again, people who know TDD very well, or people who want to actually learn and follow TDD, they will have a problem, because the more often than not, this leader will not give them the time to actually write tests, or this time to sort of learn TDD and execute it, and also the time to make sure that the quality is built in instead of as an afterthought, right? The timelines will be the same, deadlines will be the same, but still you do TDD. Now what people do in that case, people specifically say, okay, fine, if you want to do TDD, we will prove that we will do TDD to you. Okay, and we have created one metric called code coverage, and we will show that to you. As long as we have 100% code coverage or 80% code coverage, we are doing TDD, and you have to accept that at face value. Whereas the actual quality suffers, right? In this kind of scenarios, more often than not, the scenario starts like this. My job starts where I talk to the teams and find out that code coverage is their golden quality metric of test, and then I have to go back to the leaders and influence them to experiment with giving additional time for at least one user story. Right? Starts with experiment and one user story is the key there. We cannot go to a leader or even to a developer and say, tomorrow onwards you are going to change this. We cannot do that. Right? That is one example of a conversation that I have with leader, where there may be a high level understanding and alignment on what we need to do, but what all things a leader needs to do in order to support that engineering practice, that is something that comes as a responsibility of me to educate the leader and also help them adapt. Because if you suddenly cannot go to a leader and say you need to give more time to your developers, then that person will say, no Vivek, I have my deadlines. Now how do you talk to the leader so that that leader can get that psychological safety that, okay, I am the accountable person, my head is not on the line when I do this all experiments may not look good, people are talking about deadlines. So what all variables you can manipulate, and basically making them talk to themselves about these topics, and then coming up with the approach on how to implement TDD, rather than just saying, okay, sending a shooting out email saying tomorrow onwards TDD 1 2 3 go. right? That's one of the examples. Does that answer the last question of yours, Nirali?
Absolutely, but I loved one aspect of what you said, psychological safety for leaders. Now that's a new phenomenon that I'm hearing, because when you talk to any coach, everybody talks about psychological safety for people, right? We don't essentially consider or even think uh, or imagine probably that leaders also need psychological safety. How
Right.
does that play?
First thing, it is very difficult. Let's say I am going to a team. More often than not, we may not even have access to the leader beyond that, monthly one status or sync call or whatever, right? But as long as you as a coach try to establish a relationship, not as an advisor and advisee, but as a friend with that leader, right? By having more casual conversations and also talking about what other leaders you have seen have done, giving them examples of positive behaviors which you saw in your some other teams or some other leaders, that can sort of help cultivate that relationship between you and the leaders. And then probably they may open up saying, you know what, Vivek, I may not be able to do that at this point in time because I have these constraints, and people have a loaded gun and it's pointing at me now. Now is not the time. Answer that may come very late. It takes time to cultivate. First step is cultivating trust, and what do you call that, for the lack of a better term, that intimate relationship with that leader is important. Even though you are a technical coach, even though your job is to sit with the developers every day and help them. That's what I think.
Great. And the first question still remains, right? So, how does, and what I have seen, probably the expectation when a technical coach comes through is that you will do it for me. Is my understanding right?
500% correct.
So how do you handle that?
Yeah, you will do it for me. Sometimes there are variations in that, right? One variation is that you will do the end-to-end. You will take the end-to-end responsibility of implementing that within my team. That is one end of the spectrum. Another end of the spectrum is you will do that in case the team forgets to do those things. That is another spectrum, right? Sometimes I have been asked to say, okay, people are not doing TD. Why don't you write tests and let them write code? Right, that is also a possibility. And again, there is no single right answer to how do you move away from that. But establishing, when I join a team, right, having a specific initial working agreement with the team's management, leadership, and also the team members, separate, don't put them in a single call and put each other on spot, but do them separately at a little easier pace and give them chance to roll back whenever they think it's not a right decision, right? Create a working agreement with the relevant parties and then give them the feasibility to roll back in case things are not working after discussion with you. This has sort of helped me, but again, expectation management is the same concept even for a technical coach or a flow coach or even a scrum master, right? That's a common challenge is what I feel.
Okay. And when you talk about technical coach's role and the way it can help the developers, I think there is lot of investment needed from an organization towards this. Correct. So, why do you think organizations should actually put effort into technical coaching? And that's a question we would always be asked, right? When you go and say that I want to hire someone like Vivek Ganesan, then the question is, okay, everything is going fine. Why do we need a Vivek? So, why does organizations actually need to invest?
I'll tell this from a experience-based, what do you say, answer, based on whatever I'm seeing and hearing now. Right now, there is a market where people are spending a lot of money on developers or engineers in general, where people go to the level of giving huge hikes in order to get a new engineer into the team.
Hmm.
Now, in this scenario, most of the teams or most of the people who actually approached me and who have taken my help belong to the area of they having to justify to somebody else saying, you are putting in this much money into procuring developers or hiring them. Procuring is a wrong term. Resources are for procurement. Hiring developers, hiring engineers. What are you doing in order to making sure that they are giving you the results that you want? Don't tell me after 1 year. Somebody in the leadership is asking them, don't tell me after 1 year, don't tell me after 2 years that whatever developers we hired, they just came in here, we did the same style of management and it did not work out. Now that we are increasing the investment on engineers, we need to increase the investment on making sure that we need what we want. And due to that increased investment, people come and ask us, right? There are other technical coaches in which they sing the same song, right? We talk and it recently, it's like, recently the demand has gone up because people want somebody to make sure that, they get the best out of their engineering. That is one thing. Second factor is this. Though it looks like, technical coaching is about forcing developers to do things that they don't want to do, it's the opposite. Coaching in the technical angle, right? Engineering practices coaching typically creates a sense of safety and what do you call? We call it a sense of flow for developers. For example, if technical agility coaching works well and they are able to follow the practices, they get their weekends back. They will not be called for production support. They get their evenings back. They don't have to go to a movie theater and on mobile they have to debug something while somebody else screen shares, right? Developers get a lot of these things, particularly a team that I am working with in a current context. They are after this technical coaching because they don't want their current engineers to leave. They don't want their current engineers to feel that they don't have that psychological safety. They want to create psychological safety not just by leadership behaviors but also by system itself. They want to create a system which promotes psychological safety, and that system includes a good CI system which will alert them whenever they do something wrong, so that their mistakes are not very costly at any point in time. And they basically want to create a system where every release is a non-event, right? Every production release they want to make a non-event because they want the engineers to stay. Engineers are very costly now, so they want the engineers to stay. One is two sides of answer is, one is to make sure that you get the proper return on investment and as a risk management strategy for when you hire new engineers at a higher cost. That is one. Second angle of the same thing is, you don't want your existing engineers to leave, right? You want them to have that psychological safety. You want them to have that enjoyment in work. There is another area of enjoyment and happiness at work where I will create a good TT table, I will create a good coffee machine. That is separate. But people are talking about how can we make sure that people are happy while they are doing their work, right? What can we do to make sure that they don't feel threatened at work, right? They don't feel like they don't have the inner, they feel like they grow all the time. That autonomy, mastery and purpose, it comes to the same circle, right? I think I'm talking a lot. Stop me if I'm doing
No.
talking a lot of theory. These are the two sides of the angle. One is developer happiness. Another one is having to justify that you are hiring a lot of engineers at higher cost than usual. These are the two things.
No, that's brilliant, and I wanted you because of these answers itself. That does bring me to another question, and maybe a dumb question. Don't beat me up again. Is a lot of people feel that my visibility in the organization is when release is an event, and you are telling me that every release is a non-event, right? Would become a non-event. So there could be an issue of fear of missing out in the organization, especially if the culture is such that you are not working if there is no issue.
Yes.
If everything is working right, what are you doing as a coach is also a question that comes up. Even for a developer, that might come up that if everything is working fine, that means it can't be perfect, right? So how do you address that part?
Yes, even in movies where everything is going in the same pace, people will not watch that movie. There should be some challenge, and there should be a hero. That is when the hero gets the claps, right?
Yeah.
Applause. Very similar. This is particularly in Indian context, it is even more valid because most of our inherent culture is service culture, and the service culture also gives rise to you saving the show at the last moment where you do some heroic thing and saving.
Correct.
And also we have our own heroic culture behind us, our Indian history. Those things are different. But this is something that is very inherent to our culture, that we want to be become heroes by tackling things that at the last moment. That is there. Now again, the answer to your question relates to the same point of what I said before. Every tech coach should also be a flow coach, where basically understanding and creating systems where they whatever they already have should not get threatened. I will give you one example of how we can handle this. Right, instead of giving them a limelight on every day of release or day before the release, try to create a journey and ask them to celebrate the milestones of the journey. Example is, okay, we are at 6 months once release. Now we are moving to 6 months. Say we are moving to, let's say, 3 months once release. One milestone, celebrate that milestone, and make sure that people know what you have done in order to move that. Right, that way you get credibility, and you can also encouraging people to go beyond what you are doing inside the organization. For example, when you are moving from 6 months to 3 months of release cycle, you would have done something that is very unique to your own organization context, that may not be available in public for people to read. So one of my job is to encourage people to write blogs and talk in conferences about these things, so that they are not only dependent on their brand within the organization, they will also have a brand of having being there and done that kind of image outside the organization, because they would have created publicly available resources. Right, that's one way we can deal with this. Right, so celebrating milestones. And how do you celebrate? By sharing knowledge to the public. Right, and leaders, how do you tackle the leaders in that case? So you ask the leaders to share on appreciation or news of what people have done for the same milestones. So we start the conversation with, don't celebrate heroism, celebrate consistent progress and at a sustainable pace. Right, it may come like a preaching, but sort of slowly you need to bring that culture, and by again asking questions which they may not want you to ask, but slowly it comes, and it is not 100% success also. It's a hit or miss. Right, and that's what we live with. It's a hit or miss. That's true.
Wonderful. So I've been asking questions. So let me take a pause and probably appreciate you for your book being selected as the best book on continuous integration by Book Authority. So congratulations for that.
Thank you very much. Actually, it is the title is a little misleading. Probably that is for the PR reasons. It is, they have created a list of 100 books which are on continuous integration, and which are about. So they basically created a list of 100 books on continuous integration of all time. And in that, the book, The Blameless Continuous Integration, is at the level 90. So don't think it's first, it's 90 out of 100.
But still,
Yeah.
there are, I think, thousands of books on continuous integration. So 90 is not a mean achievement either. You are more humble in saying that, but yeah, it's great to know that when you have such a recognition on what you wrote. When did you write that book? It was quite a while ago, right?
Yes, it's, I think, approximately 5 years ago. I was working in a startup. I was about to jump into consulting side, and we did an experiment of doing continuous integration without attributing blame to anybody. Hence, the title is called Blameless Continuous Integration. And what all things I learned from that, and like, if you want to implement blameless continuous integration in your organization, what is the roadmap? That's what that entire book is all about, based on experiences, and a lot of head scratching at night to answer somebody's question when they come and ask what happens next.
Absolutely. And for those who don't know Vivek a bit more detailed, I think you did a different version of delegation poker as well, right? So can you talk? I know it's beyond the context, but it's required that your creative thought process is also known. Can you talk us through that work of yours?
Yeah, so there is a body of knowledge called Management 3.0, and this Management 3.0 is nothing but a toolkit, a set of practices which an agile coach can go and give to managers. Apart from just repeating the same mantra of don't command and control, don't command and control. When a manager comes and asks you, okay, my team is now transitioned to agile, how can I be still a manager without my position being, what do you say, at risk. You can basically give, it's like a backpack, you have a lot of things there, you can keep handing out new things to them. That is management 3.0. It was created by a person called Jürgen Apollo, and there was one practice called delegation poker, where it talks about delegation or empowerment is not a black and white thing. There are 7 levels of delegation, but the official set of cards were about from the perspective of a manager, right? If how will I delegate? So when we had to do that version of that in the team that I was working with, lot of team members are there and there is only one manager. So one manager and 7 team members. Why to create a card that talks like, the card will have I am going, I what do you say, I forgot. I tell. Let's say one level is I tell. Is it the manager telling or the team member telling? So we created a separate set of cards for the team members, separate set of official cards for the manager, and basically ran the exercise. That way, people can see it from their perspective and not always have to do that mental conversion into, what do you say, what the manager believes. And that became the inverse delegation poker. I also wrote a blog post about it, and Jürgen Apollo appreciated it also. So I felt good after that. So that's
Great.
anything else you are looking for, Timothy, apart from this in this topic?
No, no, no. I was just curious that it's important we also highlight the creative side of you as well that you bring to the table. Having worked with you for quite a few years, that is important to come out as well. That you are an experimenter yourself. That you're not just preaching it, but you practice it as well. So and we hear about business agility and enterprise agility quite a lot now, right? Again, the famous words floating in the market. So, how does this technical coaching probably contribute to it, or why do you think it is significant in terms of organizations looking at business agility as a whole?
Yeah. So my definition of agility is being flexible, right? Where I should be able to change direction whenever I want to change direction or whenever the situation is required without breaking myself. That is my definition of agility. Like a football player, I should be able to move the direction in which my body is running, right? So that I could actually hit a goal or do a successful pass. And I should not just hit one goal and go to hospital. I should also be alive after that. I should play the next game, I should play the next goal, I should do the next pass, I should do the next defense. That is agility for me, very much similar to how a football player or a badminton player plays. Now business agility, according to me, is how a business can respond to changes, right, without breaking itself again. The same, what do you say, definition holds there. Where I am a business, I basically generate income and I have some my own expenses, and this makes me a business because I do things, and ultimately I hope to end up in profit. That's a business. And for a business to be agile, there are a lot of things that happen outside a business which challenge the existence of business. For example, pandemic was one challenge that happened, which challenged a lot of businesses, and many businesses went out. Right, some
Absolutely.
businesses are surviving. You had something to say, Nirati?
No, no,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay,
Continue.
right. So business agility is nothing but anything that you do to make sure that your business stays alive when external or internal changes challenge your survival. That is business agility. Now, if you want a business agility, and many businesses have IT now, very less businesses operate without an IT area, right? Now, if you want the technical agility to be there, then only business agility is possible. Because I will tell you one example. Let us say your competitor releases maybe a new feature, and a lot of people in your sales pipeline are moving to competitor because of that new feature, which you had not expected before. Now you have to release very similar feature or even a little bit better than that. And if you do not have the ability to release early and continuous delivery, again the same thing, you may not be able to quickly deliver something and fight that particular push about you going out of business, or people, your leads going to some other customer or something, right? And how that is enabled, not by processes are a way to do that, but at its root level, if you go to the, if you zoom with a lot of lenses, you zoom, final zoom is how your IT delivery or IT product development teams are able to take their requirements and quickly turn them into usable, shippable products, right? And that particular last level of zoom is accomplished by technical agility, and that is what me as people like me as a technical coach aid in doing. So think of it as a lowest level of, what do you say, work that you can do to create agility as an outcome or output for the organization. I'm not sure if I confused you.
No, no, absolutely not. Uh, the question I do have is, we find so many agile coaches who are more working on flow or transformation, however you want to classify that as. But this technical coaches look to be a rare breed. So why do you think it is so?
It all depends on career choices that the market gives you, right? For a technical coach to be a technical coach, uh, there is some level of hands-on technology experience required, where this person should be able to take a keyboard, write some code, right, and get something out of it. Basic expectation, very lowest level basic expectation is that. And second thing that is expected from a technical coach is that you should be able to communicate to other developers in the language that they use every day. Right? You cannot go and say, I am going to talk about fit for purpose models to a developer. That person will, and what? That's the response you get. But if you go and talk to them in their language, then sort of it helps. Now let's talk about career choices. What kind of person will be fortunate or unfortunate enough to land in this kind of area where he knows a little bit of process also, he knows a little bit of technology and hands-on in it also, and he can talk the language of engineers also. Is very less number of people, because if I am an engineer and let's say I am hands-on and I can talk to other developers, more often than not I will become an architect, right? Or I will go to some other role and I want to become a CTO, right? Whereas in case of technical agility coaches, we want not to become an architect, because we lose the people side of our business when we become an architect. Though it is a wrong thing to say, but that is how it is in today's industry. When you become an architect, sort of you lose the people side of the world, right? And we don't want to lose the tech side of us also. So it is like that Venn diagram where there is a small thin line where the two circles are touching. That is where the technical agility courses are, where you have some process agility related aspects, and you are a hands-on coder and you have done things in the past, and you can command respect from other developers, testers, and people on the line, and you can command respect from leaders and managers because you understand what they go through, right? It not just involves experience, but it also involves certain level of, I don't know how to put it, it may be a little bit of mindset, right? A mindset is easy word to say. It's a mindset where it's like you putting yourself in, when you're talking to a manager, you have to use the terms that the manager understands. Talk to a leader, you have to put yourself in the shoes of a leader and talk about things that he understands. That is sort of, the experience for that is not available in general for a lot of people, right? Some people, I have been fortunate because of good things or bad things that happened in my career, because I landed up in that area, right? That is also there, and that there is also this need for constantly upgrading oneself, right? That is another aspect. People may not choose this particular choice, because you may be a good developer in Java, you can talk to Java developers very nicely, but as a technical agility coach, you should be a polyglot, which means polyglot means you should be able to talk about, you should be able to converse well and use multiple frameworks, multiple languages, right? And that becomes a, what do you say, blocker for a lot of people. For example, in your early years of career, or maybe in the later years of career, if you have tried your hand in multiple languages and multiple frameworks, rather than being stuck in the same framework and same language, that is also another skill that sort of helps people to grow into technical coaches, right? I don't have a single definitive answer, but there are multiple factors which I spoke about. These are the things that immediately come to my mind when I think about why.
Yeah,
And
and
there is a way to cultivate it. That's the beauty of it. There is a way, systematic way to cultivate all this experience, in a matter of year or two, if you really want to become a technical agility coach, because there is a lot of demand and people, see technical agility coaches favorably. So there is a way in which you can cultivate this, right? That is also a possible. There is a systematic way in which you can cultivate these skill sets.
Agree, but it looks more to come from passion than means the kind of designations you look for, right?
Correct.
So, not taking anything away from technical coach designation, but people would be more fascinated with the CTOs of the world or the architects of the world than being a technical coach. So that does look to be one of the challenges for people to opt this as a career as well, right? So, and you need to be grounded. When I say grounded, means you have to be comfortable working with the same set of people in every organization, because what
Correct.
we usually see is we associate our growth in our career with the level of people we work,
Uh,
right? So how do you manage these challenges per se?
So you are giving me some pointers, so that's good. I can add on to what you are saying. One more thing that came into my mind just now when you spoke about all these things is, we tell other people that you should run small experiments, right? So having this mindset of experimentation and learning from them is also sort of helpful when you want to become an agile technical agility coach, right? For example, I am 100% shameless when I come to say that I don't know anything about what you are talking about. Can you please teach it to me? Can you please explain? Right? I may be talking to an architect and they may be talking a lot of nice terms. And the moment I don't understand something, the first instinct, majority of the people go with the instinct that okay, I will somehow manage, and later maybe I will try to do that. But having that instinct or even that what do you call that? There is a reflex saying, hey, hold on, you said this word. I have not heard this in my entire lifetime. Can you please tell me what that is? Right? And when you do that, then you connect with the other person as a human, right? The other person does not see you like you are on a high pedestal, and that person is like some person who is just there to listen to what the leader wants you to learn from him. Not like that. But yeah, that is another mindset aspect also, being ability to, or rather readiness to experiment with life as a life as a concept, where you don't have authority. Your knowledge is also ever, nobody has 100% knowledge on everything. Being able to accept that, that is also a skill set. But I think I'm going into more what do you say, very abstract concepts which may not be very concrete for the audience.
No, I think means what also makes it more complex is that there are no 2-day courses for this, right?
Ah, correct. That is true. So how do you say, it is difficult to even teach the mindset in a specific period of time. You can cultivate the mindset from where you are today, right? But it is very difficult to teach the mindset and also that what do you say, attitude in 2 day or 3 day or even a 1 month course. But if it is self-paced, if you are using the pull model, where a person who wants to become a technical coach pulls items from you rather than you pushing things to them, it sort of works seamlessly, because then you can groom that person in a nice way. For example, in tech coach circle is a community that some friends of mine and I have created for exactly this purpose, to create more technical coaches, right? Because there is a lack of technical coaches in the market and we want to create more technical coaches. And for that, tech coach circle is like a platform where you can get in from where you are. You don't know technology, okay, fine. You are a project manager where you have never coded, well and good, we can start from there, right? Starting from their own starting point and moving to where they want to learn and move, by giving them some experiences on the way, sort of helps. But it's I don't believe this can be taught in a 2 day or 3 day or 1 month course. It's true.
Agree, and I was very interested from the whole concept of your tech coaching circle, right? And how you started off with that, essentially to say, okay, you practice, you showcase, and when you get certain level of competency, then you progress. Looks more experiential in the way it is structured. And the second point also is about demystifying or de-jargonizing tech coaching as a whole. Because when you talk about tech coaching itself, you come with so many jargons within that. So how do you demystify this, right? So why I as a person, let's say I'm a layman, I don't know anything about coding. So how does it help me in my journey to be a tech coach?
So if you want to be a tech coach, now sort of based on whatever we have spoken, that whether you
Looks
want to be a
very
tech coach or not.
looks very
Assuming that
difficult.
assuming that you want to become a tech coach, right? You starting, for example, you have never coded in your life. Let's say if you are that kind of a person. Now, starting from the point saying, rather than coming and telling you that you know what you should have coding experience, rather than saying that, if I show you some exercises where you can learn to code yourself and use that as a starting point for you to get into technical coaching, that may actually help you. Where even though if you do not become a technical coach in the next 1 month, at least you would have gained enough, what do you say, technical competency to even at least feel good about yourself, that hey, I'm not a non-technical person. Most of the people have this mind block that I'm non-technical, I don't want to look at code. When I look at code, I get BP. All these things come into their mind. But what we are trying to do is that code is not something very, it's not some alien, it's not some huge animal which is coming to devour you, right? So we want to make reading code and talking technical subjects a normal thing, right? We talk about Facebook, we talk about TikTok, we talk about Twitter in a normal way, right? Very similarly, we want to talk about engineering practices, we want to talk about normal stuff. It should not become like elite technology where only cool guys allowed kind of a group, right? So what we do is we basically dejargonize every jargon that gets thrown at you when you are a non-techie person, and you want to get into, you want to be included in that techies group. They throw jargons at you and you feel like, okay, I'm not a part of their group, okay, let me be separate, and you're separate. But when these jargons are demystified or dejargonized to you, so in our tech code circle, what we do is we have 4 volunteers. Each person takes 1 day. Each day, one word will be desorganized. By default, it will be there on the in on our community platform. Every single day, one word is desorganized, and we slowly build that knowledge base. Now, when a new person comes, and the desorganization is also done in a perspective of a layperson, where we assume that that person maybe has heard some words in software engineering, maybe has seen some people coding, right? But has never done coding, has never done anything in engineering, but they want to cultivate that capability. There are some people who are in tech coach circle not to become tech coach, but just to create that initial tech savviness. We call that tech savviness question, right? That is also there. I'm not sure if I'm deviating from the question that you asked. I'm talking a lot of
No,
things.
no, that's perfectly fine. So if I am a, let's say, someone who is looking to become a tech coach, ideally we talked about being a tech savvy, and taking your word from what you mentioned, that yes, I need to be looking out for all the technologies that are available, because you don't know tomorrow who you are going to work with as a tech coach, and that may be an entirely new stack that you are looking at,
Yes.
right? So that means
Yes.
the fundamentals need to be good
Yes.
from a technical perspective or software development perspective, and you should have the ability to quickly understand the nuances of the new stack that you probably are getting into, right? And you also talked about experimenting, that okay, it's okay to not know everything. You know the concepts probably in the new stack, and if there is an expert, you take their help to actually coach them, right, on the practices, because you are more
Yes.
coming from practices perspective than technology perspective,
Correct.
if my
Correct.
understanding is right. Correct.
Correct. Very correct. Very correct.
So from that, and we also hear, okay, you need to be coaching on setting up CI/CD pipelines as well, and setting up probably or writing infrastructure as a code as well. So where does this stop?
It has never stopped for me because I keep learning new jargons every day. I keep learning new engineering practices every day. So infrastructure as a code was not there a few years ago, but then it
Hello.
got thrown at us, and we had to learn what it is and probably do some experimentation ourselves. And that is where when you have your own team to experiment with, that is easy. For example, I also parallelly run a SaaS startup, so it sort of is possible for me to experiment with all these cool looking technologies while putting my skin in the game. Right? It's easy to experiment as a second, what do you say, as a third person without your skin in the game. Whereas if I have my own software which I am selling to people, and if I want to prove to people that this is this can be done, I have to be able to do that by putting my own money, my own skin in the game, and that sort of has helped. So me being sort of in the team of SaaS products. We have two SaaS products now from the company that I co-founded along with my college buddy. So that sort of has helped also. Right, but that is there. Yes, we need to learn, and it doesn't stop. And you need to have some practice ground, psychologically safe practice ground. You don't have to actually create a SaaS product to be a technical coach. Just to be clear, you can also work with communities, right, in order to create that psychological safe practice ground. That is what is important, so that you become continuously good at what you're doing.
Hmm.
I don't know a lot of things. If I open LinkedIn, there are a lot of people, new thought leaders are there, right, in the area of engineering practices, and I don't understand a lot of things that they say. So that is normal, right? It doesn't feel like you suddenly understand everything that people say. That's not
Yeah,
that. It doesn't stop.
absolutely. I think it's more important to understand what you don't know than what you know, even in this context as well. And it would have been wonderful to have our good friend Pradeep here to talk about those things as well. So, but yeah, it's been great having a discussion overall on this topic, Vivek. For those who are listening, I think Tech Coach Circle is a great forum to get onto if you are really wanting to demystify what tech coaching is and de-organize the technical concepts as a whole. And thank you very much for joining me today and probably demystifying a bit of tech coaching itself. I know it takes a lot to be a technical coach because the learning needs to be continuous and of course the experimentation also needs to be continuous. Have a great time, Vivek. Thank you for joining me today. I hope everybody who joined has also got something back as value from our discussion. And if you have faced issues with the video itself, I'll be hosting it on YouTube in a while and then sharing the link on all the my network. Thank you, Vivek. Again, any last thoughts you want
Thank
to
you.
share?
No, thank you very much for giving this opportunity. It was a nice chat. Right. Thank you very much, and thanks to the listeners also. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night, and I'll see you back in some time about a new topic that we would like to demystify rather. Thank you. Have a great time.
Thank you. Bye bye.